Good evening, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I'm your host, Tony Defio. I apologize for being a few minutes late. I was having trouble logging on. I was having trouble fitting my title underneath the 100-character limit. So I apologize for. I'm pretty good about being right on time at 9 o'clock, but this time it just didn't happen, and that's life. Sometimes you just have to roll with the punches. And good evening to everybody in the live chat. And before I continue, as always, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we bring you live shows each and every day. We have preview stuff, post-game stuff. We have The Hangover. We have The Scobro Show. We have Know Your Enemy. We have The Touchdown Under Show. There's just so many shows out there that we have. And if you can't catch any of these shows live, and these live shows are also on Facebook, by the way. We have a great Facebook presence, a lot of fans on Facebook, and you're probably seeing me right now. If you can't catch any of these shows live when they're being recorded, you can catch them after the fact on any audio platform. I enjoy iHeartRadio. Some people like iTunes. Some people just like wherever they can find them. Wherever you like to go to listen to podcasts, you can find our stuff. And we also have audio-only stuff that you can only find on an audio platform, of course, and that includes Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman, The Live Mic with Michael Beck, The Stat Geek with Dave Schofield, The War Room with Matty Peverall, from the Cutting Room Floor with Jeffrey Benedict, and we have more of those. We have more shows, what Ian's talking about, so many shows, and it's a growing platform, and it's grown so much from a year ago at this time. It's amazing the job that Brian Anthony Davis has done, and Jeff Hartman and Dave Schofield and everybody associated with Behind the Steel Curtain. Shannon White, he's a great new voice. The guys that do what Ian's talking about, great stuff from them. Just a lot of new stuff. Jeffrey Benedict's new show is so informative. So the guys from Australia always do a great job representing over the Steeler Nation, Steeler world. So please give it a listen. And, of course, check out Behind the Steel Curtain, the website. We bring you news, commentary, film breakdown, anything Steeler-related. We're always one of the first to bring it to you. Anytime there's breaking news, whatever, you'll find it on Behind the Steel Curtain. It's your one-stop shop for all your Steelers needs. And welcome everybody in the live chat. There's Jared Devil, who was the first one here. Kathy Ford, T Money, Terry, my man Terry. I was just hanging out with him on Tuesday. Joseph Brown, Steelers Chick 46, George Teston, David Logan, Just Me, Steelers Pittsburgh, Arnie Beeson, Lumberzack, Russ Obenstein, Wes Hickok, who says Tony in all caps. So we didn't say that. He types it. So welcome, everybody. And I'm so glad you guys can join us tonight. And let's talk about last Sunday's game. The Steelers finally got off the schneid. I was going to try to type schneid in the title. I gave Brian Anthony Davis, if he's listening, I gave him a whole different title, but I couldn't fit it under the character. I thought it'd be pretty cool. But anyway, I thought about typing schneid in the title, but I said I better not try to risk it, because the internet doesn't let you forget that kind of stuff. But anyway, they got off the schneid last Sunday with a pretty thrilling 27-19 victory over the Broncos at Heinz Field. And it didn't really look like it was going to be that thrilling at the end. Pittsburgh had control early in the fourth quarter. They were up 24-6. And how they got to that point, that 24-6 lead, was, I think, a blueprint and to what they have to do on offense to be successful in 2021. And I think it was kind of what everybody had envisioned this past offseason when we talked about this new offense under Matt Canada and with a revamped offensive line and Ben Roethlisberger being 39 years old and Najee Harris, a new running back. What you want is to be able to dominate a scrimmage, to be able to run the ball consistently. That way, Roethlisberger doesn't have to throw 50, 60 times a game. You can limit his throws. And if you limit a quarterback's throws, normally that's more effective in the NFL. And I think history more often than not bears that out. And he was 15 of 25 for, gosh, I should have wrote this down, 253 yards, I believe. and he averaged 10.1 yards per attempt. He had 2 touchdowns, I believe. Anyway, he had 2 touchdowns. One to Deontay Johnson. My prep for this show, I did a ton of prep for this show, including last night at bowling, and I can't remember half the things I said. Anyway, that's what happens when you have 5, 6, 7 minutes to log. It takes you 5, 6, 7 minutes to log on because your computer is so slow for whatever reason. So I'm as you can see, I'm frazzled. But anyway, Ben opened up the game last week with a beautiful 50-yard touchdown pass to Deontay Johnson, similar to what happened against the Packers a week earlier, and Pittsburgh was up 7-0. The only question this time is, would they be able to take control of the game, or would they let the Broncos get back into it, much like they did the Packers? But thankfully, they did take control of the game. And I think what really set the tone on Sunday was after Roethlisberger was stripped of the football. I think it was still in the first quarter, and the Broncos recovered deep in Pittsburgh territory. When the Steelers limited the Broncos to a field goal and made it a 7-3 game instead of a 7-7 game, I think that set the tone, and it let the visitors know that, hey, it's not going to be like it's been all year, because the defense, for as good as it's been the last couple of years, and you can blame injuries or whatever, but they have not responded well to adversity in 2021. At least they hadn't up until Sunday. It seemed like any time that the offense turned the ball over, especially in scoring territory, it was more common for the defense to allow a touchdown than it was a field goal. But Sunday was different, and I think, again, that set the tone. And Pittsburgh took control from there. And again, they jumped out to a 24-6 lead. And Harris rushed for 122 yards. He averaged 5.3 yards a carry. And the line was magnificent. It really was. It was obviously their best performance of the year so far. Ben had decent enough time decent enough protection. He had plenty of time to throw in most cases. Yeah, he got hit a few times. He got hurt a few times, but it was certainly the best that they did all year against the run, or blocking for the run. As again, Harris, he didn't just have to pick up tough yards. He had lanes to run through, which was nice to see. So it was a great day for the line. I thought Shukes Okorafor did a great job against Von Miller. Not that I think he did. He actually did that. That's a proven fact. Von Miller was a non-factor in that game. And Von Miller was back to his old defensive player of the year type self prior to Sunday's game. So for Shukes to do what he did, I think that speaks volumes, and that gives you hope that he can finally get it in his 4th year now. Of course, Dan Moore Jr. was still holding down the left side. Kendrick Green looked good. Kevin Dotson looked good. Trey Turner was a steady vet. So it was a really good day for the line, and they need to be commended because they certainly have taken enough criticism over the past 4 or 5 weeks. So, and of course, at the end, the Broncos came back in the 4th quarter. They put a couple of touchdown drives together, and they were actually on the doorstep of potentially tying the game with seconds left when James Pierre intercepted Teddy Bridgewater's 4th down pass from the 2-yard line, and that clinched the victory and gave the Steelers a much-needed win after a 3-game slide, and it really felt good, I thought. And 2-3 looks a heck of a lot better than 1-4, and it's only one game, but I think it means it's like night and day as far as how you're feeling about the team now going into week 6. So kudos to the Steelers for having an offensive performance like we said they should have had all off season. The letting the running game control the game, and having Ben pass strategically, and not because he's always playing from behind. So that when you talk about the season up till now, you're basically reacting to each and every week, right? And amid that 3-game losing streak, you had a lot of people wondering, why are you being so critical? Why are you being so negative? Why is everybody such a doom and gloomer? Well, that's just how it is in sports. When you're, if being a sports fan or a writer or a podcaster or whatever you want to call me, if it's just about showing patience and waiting till the end of the year to evaluate things, then it would be pretty boring, wouldn't it? So you had to react to what you saw each and every week. And what we saw from this offense through the first 4 weeks was pretty darn alarming. And it was reflected in my commentary and the commentary of a lot of other people, both experts and fans and amateur experts like me. So, but when you take the 5 weeks now as a whole, when you take those first 5 weeks, you kind of see what people were talking about when they said, like people like Shannon White, when they say you have to be patient, you have to realize that the offensive line is going to take its lumps. It's a brand new line, with the exception of Shooks. It's a whole new unit from last year. So to expect them to be this cohesive unit with a bunch of chemistry and knowing what one another is going to do from play to play and having this almost non-verbal communication that so many great lines develop, to expect that to happen right away was probably foolish, unrealistic on our part. But now you see it starting, maybe coming into fruition, becoming a reality. We saw it in Green Bay. The line played a much better game than it had been playing up until that point. Harris looked pretty decent in that game. He didn't rush for a ton of yards, but he seemed more effective than he had been in the past. The only problem is they were down by 17 points at one point in that game, and they kind of got away from the run. Probably got away from the run earlier than they should have because it was a pretty close game up until late in the third quarter, I guess, or midway through the third quarter. But you saw improvement in that game, and then you saw them improve even more in week 5 against the Broncos. So this is what people are talking about when they say you have to allow for some growing pains with this offense. You have a new coordinator, you have a new offensive line coach, you have a 39-year-old quarterback who's learning a new system for the first time in, gosh, however many years. I mean, they were using essentially the same system going back to Bruce Arians. It had been tweaked a lot with Haley and then Fichtner, but it was still something that Ben was far more comfortable with than he is with the new stuff with Bat Canada. So, you have a new coordinator, a veteran quarterback who was sort of set in his ways, a new line, so it's a process, and I can say after 5 weeks now, I kind of see the progress. You can't see it maybe week to week to repeat. You can't see it week to week if you're reacting to each performance in each game. But if you can take 5 weeks as a whole and just evaluate it now, you kind of see some improvement, and it's nice to see. And that brings me to this Sunday night against the Seahawks. The Seahawks have, at last check, the 32nd best defense in the NFL right now. And I think they're I wrote this down at bowling, so I should know this offhand. 30th against the pass, 31st against the run. If there's ever a time to continue to improve on offense, it's Sunday night against the Seahawks at Heinz Field on Sunday Night Football, with the whole world watching, essentially. So you can't take anything for granted, of course, but the Seahawks on paper have a pretty bad defense, and they've shown it through the first 5 weeks. So this is a really big opportunity for Pittsburgh on Sunday to continue to make strides and to continue to prove that what this offense was over the first month is not what it's going to be as the season progresses. You have to show at some point that you could be an explosive, potent offense. And I'm not talking about 35, 40 points a game. I'm talking about kind of what you did last week against the Broncos. You have to be able to show that you can do that on a rather consistent basis in order for people to start to gain confidence that this thing is going somewhere. That Matt Canada has something going for him as a coordinator in the NFL, as that the line can actually maybe be a strength one day. So you have to continue to improve, and this is a game that's ripe for that. So it's incumbent upon them to come out on Sunday and put on a good show. And if they use the same blueprint that they did against the Broncos, sort of relying on the run, establishing the run, being consistent with the run, opening up holes for Harris, utilizing him much like they utilized Le'Veon Bell for years. Like I've been saying, he seems like he can be that kind of running back that you can utilize, not just as a workhorse, giving him 25, 30 carries a game, or at least 20 or 25, but also as a weapon out of the backfield. You have to build this offense around Najee Harris. That's just going to make Ben better. That's just going to make the receivers better. That's just going to make the line have to respect, the defense have to respect things other than just taking away the short pass. So you have to come out and you have to impose your will, so to speak, on the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. And they're, of course, going to be without Russell Wilson. Talk about burying the lead, right? We've known for a while that he's going to be out with after having surgery on his finger. He's going to miss this game, and it's a prime opportunity for the defense to reestablish some dominance. Geno Smith is a nice veteran backup, but that's really all he is, and that's all he's ever been in the NFL, is a decent, if that, veteran backup. He's got a great arm. He's been around the league, so I'm sure he has no problem learning a new system, but he's still a backup. And he's not Russell Wilson. They're worlds apart as far as ability and accomplishments. So if you're the Steelers, you have to take care of business against this guy on Sunday Night Football. And quite frankly, I feel good about this game, like really good, like better than I've felt about any game so far this year. I failed to include my prediction in the staff picks yet. That's my bad. I probably would have did that tonight if I wasn't so if I wasn't struggling so much trying to get logged on. But anyway, when you read my portion of the predictions on Sunday, be prepared for a blowout prediction, because I think that's what it's going to be. I'm thinking something like 28-10, which is not a huge blowout, but for this Steelers team, that would be a pretty big blowout. So that's what I'm looking for, like 28-10, 31-13, somewhere in that ballpark. And it's going to be a fun night. And it's going to be a great, in my opinion, I'm just predicting that, and it's going to be a great way to enter the bye. And speaking of changing the perception, if you go into the bye at 3-3, coming off of two really impressive wins, which it would be back-to-back impressive wins if they beat the Seahawks the way I think they can beat the Seahawks on Sunday, then it changes everything as far as what people think of this team heading into Cleveland after the bye. And, again, it'll give them 2 weeks to get healthier. It'll give them 2 weeks to figure out more things about this offense, what direction they want to go, what really works, what maybe they can eliminate, at least for the time being, or for the remainder of the 2021 campaign. So you go into the break at 3-3, and I think that changes how a lot of people feel. And I know I'll feel a lot better about things if they can get to 500. Because I think a lot of people were fearing, as a week ago at this time, as I was doing this podcast, that they could very easily be 1-5 going into the bye. So it would be a huge thing for them to be at 500 after 6 weeks, and then you take it from there. So this is a huge game on Sunday. It's not life or death, but I think it can go a long way in shaping how the rest of the 2021 campaign is going to go. 3-3, you're feeling good about, at the very least, still contending for a playoff spot, or maybe even more, because they only have one divisional game under their belt so far. It was a loss, but they still have 5 more divisional games to play, so who knows? I mean, they would be at worst 2 games back with still 11 games to play. So good luck to the Steelers on Sunday. I'm looking for a big win and a very celebratory night for Steeler Nation, city of Pittsburgh, everybody. So on that note, at the 2047 mark, I will take this time to say goodbye to the first half of tonight's show. But if you're watching me live on YouTube or Facebook, please don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. If you're listening on an audio platform, I thank you for downloading part 1 of this show. But please come back, hurry up back, and as bad grammar, hurry back by downloading part 2 of this episode of Steelers Friday Night 6-Pack. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of this episode of Steelers Friday Night 6-Pack. I'm your host, Tony Defio. And if you listened to part 1, I thank you for that. If you downloaded part 2, I hope to have a great part 2 for you tonight. And let's see what they're saying in the live chat. And Just Me says, speaking to Clarence Washington, by the way, welcome, Clarence. Clarence, you're late for dinner, but just in time for the 6-pack. And you are, Clarence, but maybe it's a good thing you didn't see the first half, because I was really stumbling along after having my technical problems, but I'm starting to feel it now. I'm starting to feel in the groove. So let's see if we can have a really great second half. And Sheila Chick 46 asks the crowd, what's in everyone's 6-pack tonight? Sally, I'm drinking water. Steeler Chick 46, if you keep drinking water, wow, you are going to be glowing. It's much better than a real 6-pack. Look at my face. Is it glowing? No. Why do you think that is? Because I was drinking beer at bowling last night. So what else we have here? Ooh, Kathy Ford. Maybe she's onto something. And she says, I'm thinking 11-6, hoping for 12-5. Wow, that's coming out. That's coming out strong with the hot takes, I should say. We can only hope, Kathy. We can only hope. Wouldn't that be a turnaround? That would be a great turnaround if that were to happen. All right. And Steel Chick 46 says, TJ needs a sack this week. 2 would even be better. I think you're right, because I don't think we've seen the force of nature that TJ Watt usually is since he came back from his groin injury. I think it'd be great to see that fast twitch, explosive TJ Watt that we've all come to know and love over the last few years. He needs to return to that guy for this defense to truly be dominant again, I think. I mean, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy to ever replace Tyson Alualu and Stephon Tuitt, but having a 100% TJ Watt will really, I think, go a long way. But speaking of injuries, I have to talk about one that I don't like to talk about, and that's the season-ending injury suffered by Juju Smith-Schuster last Sunday. A major shoulder injury when he was trying to pick up a few extra yards after a short catch, and it was a shame. I mean, you could tell right away that it was a pretty painful injury anyway, the way he was reacting to the trainers and their manipulation as they were assisting him off the field. And you just kind of had a bad feeling about it. And sure enough, those bad feelings were confirmed later that night. And then he had to have surgery the next day, and his season is done. And perhaps his Steeler career is done. And I think it's a shame, because I think Juju, quite honestly, in a world that didn't involve social media, and I'm not talking about him, I'm talking about social media where everybody's thoughts are out there at all times. If all Juju, if he was living in an era where all he ever received was snail mail we might, and all you and all the fans really had to vent were those radio talk shows from the past that we still have today, but aren't as prominent because of social media. I don't think we would. I don't think Juju would be as polarizing a figure as he's turned into over the last couple of years. I think he would be universally loved, on par with Hines Ward or Jerome Bettis or somebody like that. People would just love the guy because he's always in the community, always doing things with kids, with just a bunch of different charities. And of course, his antics on the field. And when I say antics, I'm talking about, I mean that in a good way. I think he would just be a universally loved figure. Instead, I think certain talk show hosts and a lot of fans have gone a long way in turning him into a almost a villain in the eyes of many. And I think it's a shame. And I think it's a shame that so many people were reveling in his injury on social media and, mocking him, which it just doesn't make any sense, because you could talk about TikTok, and I don't know why anybody ever does, because I think it has nothing to do with anything. And I don't want to go into that anymore, but you could talk about TikTok. You talk about logo dances. You could talk about all the fun stuff he does away from the field, but the guy always plays his butt off. He always plays hard. He always plays mean and nasty. He's not afraid to go to stick his nose in there and take on blockers. He's not afraid to stick his nose in there and dish out tenacious blocks. And of course, as you saw on Sunday, he's not afraid to stick his nose in there and gain those extra yards. I mean, this is the same guy that knocked Vontaze Burfict into the following week a few years ago. And so to say that he doesn't care about football and he's not focused enough, I always thought that was hogwash, and I will always think that's hogwash. These guys aren't robots. They're human beings, and they're allowed to have a life away from football. And you can't constantly criticize a player for what he does away from the field unless he won a championship. Then he's allowed to do whatever he wants. It doesn't work that way in life. You're allowed to have a social life. And I thought Juju brought far more good to the Steelers organization away from the field than they ever brought bad. And if it wasn't for some people having sticks up their that stuff probably wouldn't be considered bad either. So it's a shame that Juju, if his career did end the way as a Steeler did end on Sunday, it's unfortunate that it ended that way, but he'll always be one of my favorites. I mean, I think he could have been at least a really, really, really good number 2 receiver if given the chance, but he never really had a great chance to be that over the last 2+ years because of the various situations that the offense was dealing with Ben's injury and the line, the problems with the line, new coordinator, him essentially having to shift roles from an outside receiver to sort of like the short yardage slot receiver who they relied on for the big the hard-nosed catches, the third down catches in traffic constantly. It's a shame that he didn't get a chance, but I think if he would have been allowed to play that role, maybe he's not as explosive as Claypool or Johnson, but I think he could still be really, really good at it. So who knows what the future holds for him as far as his NFL career. I mean, it's not a season-ending injury. He'll bounce back from it. It's just a matter of, will he bounce back here or somewhere else? And I'm hoping he bounces back here, but I can certainly understand if that doesn't happen, because that's just the nature of the NFL and it's the nature of sports. And guys like Juju, it's hard to keep them forever when you have so many other players you have to pay and so best of luck to Juju. And I think it's going to be, he's going to eventually, once he overcomes this, the grief he's experiencing, the depression he's experiencing from this injury. And you saw him, how emotional he got. I think it was Sunday night or maybe Monday night when he was speaking at one of his functions. He got really emotional talking about how much he loves the game of football. But I think once he kind of gets past that sort of depression, that reality that his season is over. I think the old Juju will return, and he'll be a presence in the community. Maybe he'll be on the radio. Who knows? But I get the feeling Juju is going to be a man of the people for the remainder of his time here in 2021. If that's all there is with him as a Steeler, he's going to make the most of it and make us all entertain us all as only he can. So, before I open things up to questions and comments, I'd be remiss if I didn't offer my condolences to Jerry Olsavsky, the Steelers linebackers coach, inside linebackers coach, and former inside linebacker, who lost his wife unexpectedly. I'm assuming on Friday. There was no word as to what caused the illness, or I'm sorry, the death, but it was certainly a shock, and you can only imagine what he's going through. I remember, when he played for the Steelers from '89 through the mid '90s, he was a bachelor back then in his 20s. He would often go on the radio, when he was talking to Myron or whomever, and he would always like slip in a little side note. By the way, I'm a single bachelor looking for a date, and eventually he found the woman he would marry, and it's such a tragic loss. So my thoughts and prayers go out to Jerry O, and that's all I really can say about that. Just a tragedy. So on that note, I will open things up to some questions and comments from the live chat. And Jason Kennard says about Sunday night's game against the Seahawks at Heinz Field, knowing the Steelers, they are going to make this game hard or possibly even lose. They always do that. I hope we win 31-13, but you know how they are. Well, I mean, the Seahawks aren't a bad team, so I mean, it's not like they're playing little sisters of the poor. I'm just saying I have a good feeling about the game based on the kind of role the offense has been on, quote unquote, the role the offense has been on the last couple of weeks, plus how bad the Seahawks defense has been stats wise this year. But the Seahawks are a proud franchise in their own right, and they've been a perennial contender for the past decade or so. So, they're not going to come in here and just lay down and they're not going to just roll over and go to sleep. They're gonna put up a fight. Pete Carroll's a pretty motivational coach, or motivating coach. So, but I get a feeling it's gonna be a decent win. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be like the Sunday night game against the Chiefs in 2016 where they won, was it like 45-14? But I get the feeling it might feel like that kind of lopsided win when all is said and done. So. Russ Obenstein says this is a character and coming together game. That's right. Sean Manahan says, what's up? Wes Hickok says, I did great. I don't know at what. Hopefully at my recovery from the technical difficulties. And Wes Hickok, speaking of Wes, this is a pretty hot take. And he says, definitely think we can keep playing like last week. 12-5, 13-4. My original prediction is still possible. That's right. Mathematically speaking, they can still finish. Heck, they can finish 14-3. That would be great, wouldn't it? But I'd settle for a nice, if they can get on the kind of roll that they were on at the end of 2016, speaking of that year, when they won 7 games in a row to close out the regular season, won the AFC North, and then made it all the way to the AFC title game. Nobody thought that was possible at one point in that season. They were 4-5. They lost 4 games in a row. They lost Ben for a while there for a game and a half or so with a torn meniscus. Cam Hayward was lost for the year with a torn pec against the Cowboys. They looked done. Yet they came back and won the division. So yeah, anything's possible. We just don't know a whole lot about this team yet because there's so many youngsters on this team, especially on offense, that haven't really quite proven themselves just yet. So there are a lot of unknowns, but just take it one game at a time, right? And Mule Skinner asks, do you guys use StreamYard when together? You're talking about the like the Hangover, those kind of shows? Yeah, we use StreamYard for everything, for all the live shows. Sean Manahan says, I remember the 95 season, they were 3-4 and went on to the Super Bowl. That's right. Although I think that was a more talented team. At least history has proven that out, because they actually went to, as you said, they went to the Super Bowl. The year before, they were in the AFC Championship game. 2 years later, they were in that same AFC Championship game. So that was quite the team that Bill Cowher had back then. But hey, you never know. This is a pretty young team. That's the one good thing about it. It's one thing people don't realize is, aside from Ben, this is a really, really young team. I think somebody said they're the second youngest team in the NFL if you take Ben away, which or maybe even with him on his age included, they're still the second youngest team in the NFL. So there's hope there. And Modster, the happy Monster, he donates $1.99 super chat. Thank you, Monster. And he says, Highsmith gets 1.5 sacks and 2 quarterback hits. Print it. Well, I don't have a printer, but I'll take note. I'll write it down. I don't have a pen on me, but I have my notebook right here, and I'll put it in there, Monster. And I'll remember you said that on Monday when we're on the Hangover. I'll even give you credit if he gets 2 or 3 sacks. Although he might be mad at you for downing him with just 1.5 sacks. We'll see. And George Teston says a TJ strip sack and fumble or 2 would be nice. Well, yeah, it's always nice. Devin Logan says of Juju, he's just trying to have fun. It's a social media platform. That's right. He's just trying to have fun. I don't know. It is a game. The weird thing about sports and sports fans is they often like to remind players that they get to play a game for a living. But then when they show any kind of enthusiasm, any kind of sort of kid-like enthusiasm for the game, or just show any kind of personality, they say, oh, you're at work. You need to be a professional, so you can't win sometimes. And Kathy Ford asks, is Juju good enough to appear on Behind the Steel Curtain? I think so. I've seen him on other similar podcasts, so why not ours? You never know. I mean, Zach Banner, we got Zach Banner, so why not Juju? Juju would love. I'm sure he would jump at the chance. Hint, hint. If you're watching Juju, yeah, that what a get that would be, right? And Lumbersack asks, Tony, what do you think they're going to do with Banner when he comes back? Start him or don't touch the continuity. I'd say start him because Shooks literally just hit his ceiling and is back to normal. Well, what if he crashed through that ceiling? But I think right now, as things stand right now, I think they would probably insert Banner as a starter. But if Shooks continues to play well, if he builds off of that Von Miller performance, I don't see any reason to change. I mean, as you said, you wouldn't want to ruin or disrupt the continuity. So I would leave Shooks in there, but who knows? I mean, it's I guess that's a bridge we'll have to cross when we get to it. Steeler Chick 46 says of Jerry O, his tragic loss, prayers for his family. That's right. It's such a tragedy. I couldn't even imagine that. And Shannon White, my colleague on Monday's podcast, he says, so sad to hear about Jerry's wife's passing. Prayers for him and his family. That's right. Yeah, it was such a shame. So thank you, Shannon. And Mule Skinner says, will Derek Watt ever get a carry or reception? I'm going to say no. Based on everything we've seen from the guy since he's become a Steeler, he's probably just going to remain a special teams guy, and that's it. I mean, maybe he'll come in as a fullback and block every now and then, but he doesn't appear to be in their future as any kind of an offensive weapon. But that's fine. I mean, if the offense can perform, who cares? I mean, I mean, Derek Watt. It's not like we're talking about John L. Williams as far as fullbacks are concerned. I mean, I think if his name was Derek Williams, not Derek Watt, people wouldn't even think anything of it. He would just be some special teams guy. That's all. I don't know. I'm not worried about Derek Watt and him being a contributor. I'm more worried about the line improving and guys like Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth continuing to get better as young targets for Ben or whoever the future quarterback happens to be. Because I think those guys can all be superstars. All three of those guys can be superstars if they continue to grow. And Just Me says, Tony, how's work going? Good. Work's going fine. Nothing to complain about. Still trying to find my next really great career. I've been bouncing around for 5 years, trying to find my niche. And in the meantime, though, I found podcasting, which has been great. I've honed that skill, or honed's a pretty strong word. I've developed my skill as a podcaster, which I'm grateful for. It's something I never thought I'd get a chance to do. So this has been a lot of fun. Who would have thought I'd be hosting my own podcast? So I'm grateful to Jeff and Brian and Dave and everybody for giving me the chance. But in the meantime, I'm just plugging away, trying to find my next big thing. So thank you for asking, Just Me. Russ Omenstein says of Wes's optimism. Love your optimism, Wes. We all need to be like that. We are the Steelers at our best when backs are against the wall. Well, that certainly describes them right now, that 2-3, but they're on a bit of a roll, or not, I shouldn't say a bit of a roll. They're feeling pretty good right now. And Lakuta70 says, I just hope you're not looking past the Seahawks and are looking for the Browns game. I don't think they are. I don't think you can be looking past anybody at 2-3. And besides that, they have the bye coming up after the game. So they're not looking past anything. They might be looking past the Seahawks to a nice break, but they're certainly not worried about the Browns right now, in my opinion, anyway, because of the bye. Brian Brown says, Seattle supposedly has a bad defense. Whenever a team supposedly has a bad defense, they always play the Steelers tough. Well, I mean, you know, that's like the whole, they always play down to the level of their competition thing, which they don't always play down to the level of their competition. That's just, we always remember the times that they do. But, you know, put it this way. If this was a 2015, 2016, 2017 Steelers offense with AB and Bell and Martavis and all those guys in the best line in the NFL, they would tear this defense to shreds. I would be totally confident in that. But it's a wild card now because you just don't know about the offense yet. It's still a work in progress. It's still going to have some growing pains. So you never know. And Steelers Pittsburgh says of Zach Banner, he does a lot of talking, but he hasn't been on the field to back it up. Well, I mean, what's he talking about other than he's talking about, from what I've seen of him, he's just trying to pump up his teammates. Mostly when I see him talking, it's a motivational thing. But I mean, you're right. He hasn't been out there yet. He really hasn't proven himself as a starting O-lineman in the NFL. I mean, his most significant playing time so far has been as a jumbo package tight end. So, yeah, he definitely has a lot to prove. And, you know, what people seem to forget about Banner is that competition between him and Shooks back in 2020, that the training camp competition for the right tackle spot was supposedly a really close competition. So when you see how much Shooks has struggled over the last couple of years, it makes you wonder, you know, is Banner, can he be an upgrade? I guess we'll find out sooner rather than later, hopefully. Wow, Mule Skinner says Cody White, their reserve receiver, a guy who's probably going to get more playing time now with Juju out. He will score a TD. I don't care who scores, but that would be a pretty big story if he does score. Although I'm looking for James Washington to really maybe prosper from this I can't say, I hate to say opportunity, but this chance for more playing time. And George Teston says, he admonishes me, "You are a writer without a printer and a pencil? Come on, Tony." Well, I have my pen somewhere around here. I had it before the there it is. It's back there on my dining room table. As far as the printer, you got me. I haven't had a printer in probably 15 years, whatever. I mean, how many things you have to print now anyway? I mean, the occasional resume, and I can always go to FedEx for that, or my sister has a printer or whatever. But yeah, I guess I should get a printer someday. And speaking of James Washington, something I want to touch on. Remember those rumors that circulated? I don't know if it was during training camp, or I guess it was during training camp, about him wanting to be traded because he felt like he was blocked from being able to do anything because of the numbers at receiver. Well, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I was against that kind of a thing, because now you're going to need that guy. We talked about how they were 4 deep at receiver. Well, if they traded Washington, they'd be 2 deep at receiver right now. Now they have 3 young and talented receivers, and now James Washington's going to get a chance to prove that he can be a really productive player in the NFL over these last how many games? 12 games. Yeah, 12 games. So that's why you don't. I was all about keeping the best 53 players for 2021, and I wasn't worried about accruing any draft picks for 2022 and beyond. That's I could care less about that, and that's why I'm glad they didn't trade Washington. All right. And Russ Obenstein says of Shooks, when he plays against a top guy, he always steps up. Yeah, he held his own against Aaron Donald a couple years ago, and of course I believe that's like the second time now that he's dominated Von Miller. So maybe it's just a matter of, like Shannon said on Monday, maybe it's just a matter of Shooks being able to dredge up that intensity each and every week, not just when he's playing against the big guys, but being a professional and going to work each and every Sunday and bringing it 110% no matter who you're going up against. Maybe that's something that he has to learn yet. Yeah, people forget this guy's he's fairly new to American football. I mean, I'm sure he's as experienced at it as anybody who maybe started playing 10 years ago at a young age, but he's not from here. He's not from America. I think so. He's not steeped in that intensity about football that we have here in this country. So maybe it's something that he has to learn over time. But if he can do that, I mean, if it's just a matter of finding that intensity, ratcheting up that intensity whenever he has to, then maybe he can turn into a really good player if he's able to find that switch. So, but he does seem to do a really good job against really good, talented players. I don't know what that's all about, but again, it could be just a part of the maturing process for him, maturation process. The Mule Skinner says, I would start more all year, as he is the future and has to learn. He has more upside than Shooks. Well, I think he's certainly been holding his own, and he's a natural left tackle. I think that's the only position he really knows right now. And I would keep him there because he has given them no reason to remove him. I would keep him there, and I think it would just be a matter of, is it going to be Shooks or Banner on the right side? And in my opinion, if Shooks loses out, he's still a pretty decent player. He's decent enough that you would feel confident in him being your swing tackle. And plus you have Joe Haig, who's versatile and has already played some this season. So, if you get Banner back, I think that makes that line, the depth anyway, so much better. So hopefully he's back soon. And Brian Brown says, Geno Smith will throw picks if pressured. Is this the game Hayden or Minka gets an interception? No. I think it's a game that James Pierre gets his second straight interception, a big one, and he's going to return it, not for a touchdown, but deep into, I almost said New York territory because that's where Geno Smith used to play. Deep into Seattle territory. That's my prediction. Write it down. I whip it. I don't have a pen on me. And Mule Skinner says of me, Tony, you do a great job. Thank you. And wow, this is I can't believe it, man. The way the show started, now my ego is getting inflated. I'm going to ask for more money. And Russ Obenstein says, you're my favorite solo podcast. Wow, thank you, Russ. That actually means a lot. That makes me feel good. Makes me that really gives me that really warm and fuzzy feeling in my stomach. And Brian Brown says, BTSC is a big thing to me, Tony. Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate it. We have so many great fans and listeners and readers, and BTSC has been such a big part of my life for the last 11 years. So I'm glad it's such an important thing for so many people out there, because it really is a great site, and they do such a great job of always keeping everybody informed, entertained. We have a lot of great stuff in store for you, even for the bye weeks. A lot of great podcasts, so great opportunities for you. So please keep coming back, even during the bye. You're not going to be sorry. So on that note, since and Just Me says I rock as alone. Wow, I got to stop reading these. It's a lone podcast. I'm just going to get so egotistical, but I'm just kidding. I really am sincerely flattered. So thank you guys for the support. But on that note, I'm going to call it a night, and I thank you for listening and watching. And again, please download parts 1 and 2 on the audio platform if you couldn't catch this live. And please continue to check out Behind the Steel Curtain all weekend, all next week, all throughout the bye. We're going to be bringing you content each and every day, both in the written form and in the podcasting form. And enjoy your weekend and enjoy the Steeler game on Sunday. Let's hope for a win. And until I talk to you again on Monday on The Hangover, go Steelers.